Hello and welcome to the Habit Coach podcast. I'm Ashdin Doctor, your habit coach. Today we have a very interesting topic. And a friend of mine who we just realized we were calculating, I met last 22 years ago. Now in my mind, I don't think I'm 22 years old, let alone having met a friend in college 22 years ago. And we completely lost touch. And then we realized that we have so much in common in what we are doing. She is a fantastic person in understanding life, our body, our system of being and health beyond just the physical aspects of it. And today we're going to be talking about enjoying life through yoga. It's going to be a fantastic discussion, and we have with us Mirabelle D'Cunha. Mirabelle, welcome to the Habit Coach podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to see you again. It's a pleasure to be here and to have the opportunity to share whatever little wisdom life has offered to me. So I'm really happy to be here.
So how did life shove wisdom down your throat? Tell us your journey. Like, how did you get here?
I think my big awakening was having an L5 slip disc when I was about 24. And you and I have a history from college and, dancing and theater and all of that. So I love dance, and it was my life. It was my way of catharsis, of processing my emotions, of which I had a lot of, particularly anger. And when I had the slip disc, it was, they also discovered that I had congenital scoliosis and a whole bunch of issues. And I was told that I might not really be able to dance again.
And dancing was you, your identity was dancing.
Yeah. I was so identified with it. And, that's a great observation, that I felt like there's no point to me living if I can't dance. And so I was pretty depressed, and I didn't want to have spine surgery. So I decided to go to the Himalayas and give yoga a shot. In terms of yoga, I had already been practicing before college. We were at Xavier's, so I would take the train, get off at Santa Cruz, go take a yoga class, listen to a satsang, which I had a lot of skepticism about, but went anyway, and then come to college. So it was part of the journey, and I really knew that the main energy lines move through the spine, and I had been told by somebody, I can't remember who, that if you mess with that, your opportunity for spiritual growth is sort of stunted. So I didn't want to do that. And when we were little, I don't know about you because I'm older than you are, but we had only this black and white Doordarshan TV, and there was this dancer called Sudha Chandran, and she had a Jaipur foot. And she was dancing. So when I had the slip disc, that was my inspiration. If she can do it without even having a foot, I can do it with a broken back.
And you went there and you learned yoga. What happened then?
So I went there with this terrible slip disc. I went to the Himalayas, right? So it's close to Gangotri. It's not an easy terrain, and certainly not on a slip disc. I remember getting on the train from Delhi to go to, I think it was Rishikesh, and I couldn't even hold my bag because I didn't have the strength. And all along the way, there was a guy from the army that helped. Somebody was just helping me, and I made it there. And on the first day, there were 30 of us. It was a yoga teacher training, Like, I just went into the deep end. And 28 people were not Indian, and there were 2 of us Indians. On the first day, the Swami was guiding the class, and the first asana was Shirshasana, headstand. I'd never done a headstand in my life before.
Oh, he threw you into deep end, straight first.
That's just how it was. So, I mean, there's a reason to it,
Correct.
We work with the crown chakra first and, all of that. But I didn't know that. And I saw everybody up in headstand except me and the other Indian. And I'm like, I need to run out of here. But I was in so much pain that I couldn't. So he came up to me and he assisted me into a headstand. And I'm saying, no, Swamiji, I have an L5 slip disc. Like you don't get it. Like, you can't do this. He just looked into my eye and he assisted me into a headstand. He was holding me, but at that moment, something happened. I lost all sense of time, all sense of pain in my body, of which there was so much. And I can only even now recall it as an afterthought because I still cannot, I can feel in my body sometimes that experience of spaciousness and like there is no limitation to me.
So you did the teacher's training. This connectedness to the universe, this epiphany happened about anything is possible. This vastness of feeling happened. How did it become a part of your life? How did you make it up? How did you weave it into your life, the yoga lifestyle and all of those things? And then how do you take it forward into all the stuff that you talk about now?
My first, initially my thing was this, like we say, Atha Yoga Anushasanam, right? Now I'm beginning the practice of the discipline of yoga. Ashdin, you said discipline to me, and I'd run like a million miles away because, I love dancing. I love experiencing life. I love enjoying life. So do not ask me to do anything that has to do with discipline because it's going to kill my joy. So I thought of yoga as something that would kill my joy, stunt my personality, and make me a sannyasi, which I had no interest in being. But it's quite the contrary. Absolutely the opposite. Really, the whole journey is simplifying so that we can expand more. If you ask me to define yoga in a very simple way, I would say it's economy of effort and luxury of inner experience.
Economy of effort.
Effort and luxury of inner experience. Because all the things are taking you to that economy of effort, right? Like the things that you're talking about when you're talking about habits, what is it? It's economy of effort. Instead of making, like we were just talking about, maybe on the flight and, all of that. And when I'm saying I eat only at 9 and 5, I don't have choices. Like I have made the choice in conjunction, not with like my random choice, but with how nature's rhythms work, right? And then all the clutter around, we were just talking about, I've just come to India after a long time and, all the samosas and the chaat and like all of those things you're seeing in the dosa and you can smell everything. And I don't have this opportunity to like just go out and get this stuff. And there's like nothing inside. There's a joy to experience it. There's a little bit of joy for the nostalgia, but there's not like, oh, I need to go back to that time, when we used to be outside college and have that sandwich from that guy that used to put butter and chutney and save and everything on top
cheese
of
on
it
it.
and lots of cheese. Like I can enjoy that as a shared experience, but I don't feel the need to go back to it. And then all that clutter, right? What we talk about, the yoga's chitta vritti nirodha, right? The fluctuations of the mind start reducing. Because there's no decision making. There's no conflict. The conflict reduces so much because you're so clear about what you're aligned with.
It's like simplifying life, minimalism of effort, like you said. Like, I know these are the things I have to do now. Why you're trying to confuse my life and adding more stuff to it? That's not the face I see when people are in a yoga class, right? There's all like such struggle of how am I going to like hold this plank for so long? Or you're saying I have to do this Surya Namaskar and this stretch is hurting here and this. So where is the inner peace when you're thinking about that struggle that is there in that asana?
Yeah. So the depth of grace that you experience, right, is directly proportionate to the, I won't say struggle, but the tapasya, right? That forbearance that you have. It is not possible. And we've got to understand that yoga is not about calm. I mean, I just want to, break some myths around it. I'm not calm all the time. It's about being in a state of allowing. This one of my gurus, Swami Shambhudevananda, he would keep saying this, and I just never got what he was saying. He would say, just keep allowing. I'm like, come on, you're trying to make me hold this asana for 10 minutes. Like it's just awful. I feel like rubbish. Like, what is allowing? Like, what is this, surrender? It just felt like I wanted to revolt against it. But allowing is being with what is. I don't have to accept it. I don't have to say it's okay for whatever to be happening, but I can say it's okay for me to experience anger while I'm practicing yoga. But in an asana class, every asana actually targets certain marma points, right? So marmas are where the energy meridians meet. So if you're actually effectively doing yoga the way it's meant to be practiced, with an inwardness, with the breathing, with your alignment with opening your heart and your body to the grace of God, or like however you sort of connect with this glorious energy that is making all this happen, you can be with that discomfort and know that it's here for a reason. The point of the asana is actually to unlock the traumas, because all our traumas are stored in the body. Like we say in the West, you got issues in your tissues, right? So it's whether you do it through acupuncture, or you do it to Marmani massage, or you do it through asana, or like somatic work, or there's so many beautiful modalities. We're going to the same place. So it's not the absence of it. It's when I feel anger, for example, the first thing to do is to, because we're using language, I'm saying anger. But actually, there is an arising of sensation in my body that I label as anger. But it is an emotion, energy in motion. It is a sensation that is coming, and if we talk about the science of it, it's the limbic brain that gets activated, and it's fight, flight, or freeze. Certain neurochemicals, you've got adrenaline and, cortisol, all of these sort of getting activated, blocking out, the other neurotransmitters that make you feel good. So it's all very scientific and understandable, but even the science doesn't help you process it. The processing can only happen in the body. The space of healing and of trauma is the body, because we are embodied. So noticing what anger feels like, and at every time anger will feel different. So for instance, sometimes it feels like a rising from the belly, and it feels like heat, and it feels like a rapid rising of heat in my body. The heat feels more explosive, or it feels more penetrative, or it feels, if I'm sitting in a session with somebody for, say, a co-meditation, we'll track what that feels like. Or there's a tightness. Can you describe that tightness? What is the quality of it? Can you zoom in more with the state to just be, I'm here and I'm listening. I'm not trying to fix. I'm not rejecting. I'm not trying to get rid. The way that we're conditioned is when I feel something uncomfortable, I must distract myself. How do I do that? Either I'll get on my phone, I'll go have a smoke, I'll do like whatever. I'll even, and I have to do this with some of my, I work with a lot of C-suite people, and with some of my clients, like, you will not exercise when you are feeling angry. You will do a core meditation practice, and you will only exercise when you feel good, because they're using that as a distraction mechanism. We've got to really go subtler and subtler and subtler so that we don't bypass the body response. So no, we're not supposed to feel calm in a yoga class. We're not supposed to feel anything. We're just supposed to be open to the experience. We're not even supposed to do that. I love that about yoga. It makes no demands of you, and it presents all these techniques that can help me understand myself and be kinder to myself.
I love this. But guide people through this part, okay? So if I have a yoga practice, so I go for a yoga class this evening, what should my mindset be when I'm first getting onto that mat? And what should my mindset be through the asana? One aspect is, okay, fine, start doing Trikonasana. Okay, fine, start doing this asana. But what should my mindset be at each of these asanas, and what should I be experiencing and feeling?
You should not be experiencing and feeling anything. Whatever your experience is, that's what it is. Why should my experience and your experience of yoga be the same?
No, for most people it is when is Shavasana coming as an experience.
Yeah.
Right?
So I would want to say, the first thing we want to go back and ask, why am I practicing yoga? That's the most important question to ask. Because it's not about a class. I mean, is yoga about a class? I'm sorry, it's not. Why am I practicing yoga? And be really honest with yourself. I'm practicing yoga because I want a yoga body. Fine. Nothing wrong with that. There is no hierarchy. You don't have to be practicing yoga to feel calm or to have nirvana and moksha and, all of that. Be authentic with yourself about why you're going to that practice. And then why are you in that particular, if it's deeper reasons than the body, and I don't think the body is a shallow reason. I think it's the lineage that I come from, Shri Vidya Yogini Tantra, the woman's body is, or a human body is a gift of the divine. And to be celebrated and to be respected and to be enjoyed within the paradigms of not proprietary, like not conditioning, but within the paradigms of respecting the laws of nature and the laws of energy. So I think whatever your reason is, you should be really clear about that. And then also just be open to the experience. And if you're feeling discomfort, ask why. Like, am I pushing? We can see all our patterns with our relationship with the food, because I think that's a very easy one. Everybody eats, not everybody practices yoga, right? Though eating is part of yoga, so everybody does practice yoga. We can see all our patterns. So for example, since we're talking about asana, if someone is really like, I've got to get into this, like Ardha Matsendriya asana, or, whatever, like this twist, and I need to be completely aligned, and, they're coming, notice if this pattern is there in your life where you're trying to always be perfect or get there first, or that you're always fighting what is coming to you. Like, no, I'm going to be positive. I'm going to be positive. This is hurting me, but I'm going to do this. I'm going to be positive. It's a rejection. Even perfection is a rejection of what is. And I will say that as a recovering perfectionist, there's so much rejection of the self in this illusion of perfection, because there's a lack of trust that whatever created me gave me everything I need to, and I'm evolving. Like, perfection can be like, what? So I'm perfect, then I'm a fossil. How do I grow? Like, how do I expand from there?
Yeah, if you know everything, then there's nothing to teach you anymore.
There's
right?
nothing to, exactly. And it brings humility, the yoga practice, because even if I can do things, every day that inner experience is different. We can live without food, but we cannot live without breathing. We're designed to be breathing all the time. It's our primary food, our primary nourishment, and one we take for granted all the time. So if we regulate our breathing, we are able to make space for discomfort. It's almost like breathing gives the discomfort like a hug, and not like a tight hug, but like, I'm here.
Yeah.
And we can be with the opposites. The purpose of yoga is also to be with opposites. You have to hold opposites. Like, when one part of the body is, the muscles are working, the other, the opposite muscles are relaxing. So this, seeming dichotomy, it's what keeps the world together. The tree needs the roots to go down into the darkness with all the, what people call creepy crawlies, which I don't think are creepy crawlies, but they're like nourishment, right? It needs to be able to go into that dark part that's wet and really dark, and it needs to make the effort to send its roots out. And only when it does that can it grow up towards the light, which is, roots upward. You cannot have one without the other. Nowhere in nature will you see one without the other. Then why should my body be any different? Like, what, I'm exceptional? That I should never feel anger or sadness or jealousy or greed or lust or, these are human emotions. The practice of yoga is transmuting that energy and using it for expansiveness. And we can all do that. It's the transmuting. Like, anger is such a strong energy, right, Ashdin? When you feel it, it takes over your body. It's very powerful. It has so much Shakti.
So for the longest time, I was doing our Wim Hof breathing method, right? So because I used to do high altitude treks, so I needed to get comfortable with low oxygen. So I used to hold my breath for 4 minutes at a time, etc. And I suddenly realized that the strength that comes from knowing that you don't need to keep breathing. So like, if someone held my mouth, I'd be like, yeah, it's okay, cool. You don't feel suffocated anymore, and that's something that we are so prone to. You feel that suffocation, you feel that the world's caving in on you, but when you let your breath go, that suffocation disappears, the need for it. So you suddenly start realizing the freedom from doing practices like this as well.
Yeah, it's completely
liberating.
Shifts everything. And I just I know you have a question to ask, but if you are not practicing consciously slowing down your breath, you're really missing on a big, big, big gem in life because you can do it any time. You're in the metro, you're walking to the restroom, and when we talk about intermittent fasting, so all of my clients that work one-on-one with me, I always give them a breathing practice for at least 2 minutes to do before they eat each meal. Because of the effect it has on the nervous system and the ability to absorb what you're eating, and also not feel sort of like, I need to get on with it and eat and finish so that I can get on with life and do the next thing. Like, eating is amazing. We should enjoy it. Everything.
What's the breathing practice?
It's really simple. So it's called Sama Vritti. Sama, same. Vritti, thought, because breath and thought waves are related. So you breathe slower and you will have fewer amount of thoughts pinging in your head. When you're more anxious, you're breathing faster and you will have more thoughts pinging in your head. So in the West, we call this coherence breathing. So you inhale for 5 seconds and you exhale for 5 seconds. You can use an app to practice. My friend Eddie Stern has a lovely free app called the Breathing app. So that's what I recommend. It's got a little drone sound. Or if you can chant in your mind, Om 1, Om 2, Om 3, Om 4, Om 5. And then exhale the same thing. Or you can also, if you find that you're very distracted and you're very restless and you can sort of focus, then you bring your right hand to your lower belly and your left hand to your chest. And as you breathe in, you let your belly get completely like voluptuous, right? And I love that because, this is a sensory experience. And curl into the palm of your hand. And as you breathe out, you leave your hand where it is. And then you let the belly move towards the spine. When you do the breathing the second time, you've got to get your belly all the way into the cup of your hand again. So that ensures that you're not sort of like, half breathing through, which can happen if you're not conscious. So it's helpful to work one-on-one with somebody, at least for one session, because there's so much to breathing. There's a functional breathing. I'm breathing slower, but they're all chest breathing. So it's not diaphragmatic breath. So it's important. This is a science. If somebody has blood pressure, we might change the ratios, things like that. So it's always important, I think, to get guidance from somebody.
Absolutely.
But generally,
like we think it's just
5-5.
breathing, but it has a huge effect on the body. So you can't just take it as just breathing.
Yeah, exactly.
So I love these little things that we can do through the day, okay? And especially since today's topic is enjoying life through yoga. So all these little things that we're going to do through life, you have to keep telling us.
Yeah.
So there is this aspect of yoga that we know. Now we are talking about the different koshas, right? Tell me about that.
So the koshas are the sheaths of the body, and there's a different understanding in Tantra and Yoga. I'm going to talk about the yogic understanding. So the first sheath is Annamaya kosha, or our food sheath. And I want to make this really practical, okay? So Swami Vishnu, one of the gurus I never met, but he would say, all that you are is made up of all the cauliflower, broccoli, and pizza that you eat. And my daughter used to come to the ashram with me, so she used to laugh a lot. So I kind of remember this, right? Because if you think about it, everything from your ovaries and sperm cells, which are what continues life, to stem cells and lymph and blood and all of these, we have the saptadhatus, all are made up of what you're eating. So Annamaya kosha, your food sheath, is this physical body through which you have an experience of life, because even breath has to happen through the body. We want to do this, we need our limbs, we need our body, right? So that's Annamaya kosha. So respecting it, it's the first order of business, because you can't get to anything subtler like the mind and all of those other aspects without taking care of the food sheath. Mental health is, in yoga and Ayurveda, I don't want to put a percentage to it, but a large part of it is dependent on the food you're eating, because food has effects on the nervous system, on the mind, when you're eating, how you're eating. I know you had Vignesh on the show, so I'm not going to go into all the stuff that he talks about. But, if you haven't listened to that show, please listen, because we need to know Ayurveda. And it's a pity because, I'm teaching in the West mostly, and the white people are so open to this. And people from my own country are like, Ayurved. Hey,
My grandmother used to do it, it's fine.
You know, and it's like, it makes me sad. You know, I trust that it's all for a reason, but it's just a little bit like, okay. So
You don't know what you're missing out on.
Yeah. So Annamaya Kosha is that. And then through the Annamaya Kosha, we are able to experience the Pranamaya Kosha, which is the subtle, the energy body. Okay, so everybody's familiar with prana, the life force, which is contained in breath, but it is not breath. It's not the components of breath. It is the vital life force that sustains everything and that makes everything move, right? So then everything we're experiencing as sensation is in the Annamaya Kosha, in the food sheath, but through the Pranamaya Kosha, through the energy body, right? So when we're talking about, traumas or delirious joy, it's all experienced as sensation in the body, and that we experience through the movement of prana. So the prana gets coagulated, condensed, stagnant, whatever, and then it feels tight, or it feels like heavy, or it feels expansive. All of these are different states of the prana, which we experience in the Pranamaya Kosha. Then we've got the Manomaya Kosha, so having to do Mano with the mind. Then we've got a Vijnanamaya Kosha, which is our intelligence and our beliefs. And then we've got Anandamaya Kosha, which is the bliss sheath. So the first practice of awareness is my physical body. How am I respecting it? Through action, consistent action. I can't respect it only when I'm doing a detox fast or whatever. Like, there is no reward and punishment. Am I in patterns of reward and punishment with my physical body? Whether it's the way I look, it's the way I eat, my sleep. Do I think of food as, this is going to be a treat? If you look at all these very practical things in your life, you will understand if you actually have an authentic relationship, a real relationship of intimacy with your Annamaya Kosha, with your food sheath. And we've really got to start there. Look at all these patterns, and it starts so young. Telling a child if they do something good, then they'll get like a toffee or they'll get whatever, is saying that your body is not worthy of, good stuff, or you have to earn good, you have to earn rewards.
I was with my client this morning and we were talking exactly this. We were saying that, have you noticed that all the stuff that we pride as being cool, or stuff that we think of as enjoyment, or stuff that we treat ourselves with, are things that are shortening our lifespan?
Yeah.
So I'm doing 30 days of no alcohol, and I'm going to this Ayurveda retreat, Vignesh's only, for my birthday. So people are like, who celebrates their birthday while going to an Ayurveda retreat? Right?
Some loonies like us.
Correct. And I was like, you see, the thing, funda is that you're celebrating your life, na? So far, you're not celebrating like how fast I'm going to die now. And that's the point of this, right? Can you start looking at your life with a little slant, or look with a different perspective on things, and saying that why exactly is 4 glasses of champagne celebrated?
Yeah.
Who told you that 4 glasses of champagne is a celebration?
Yes, absolutely.
Correct. Does it do anything for my Anandamaya Kosha? Is bliss coming from this? Because bliss doesn't come from the champagne, right? Bliss comes from something else. And can we actually get to bliss as a state? Because when you're in a state of bliss, life just seems different.
Yeah. I mean, it's so beautiful the way you said it, right? Like, why do we do this? And I think, in every culture, and particularly in Indian culture, we really need to question the conditioning. At every level, there is so much conditioning, and we subscribe to it because we want to belong. And we all do. All of us want to belong, right? Like, we are right now, our mirror neurons are like mirroring each other and feeling a sense of
Alexa folded in the same way.
Sorry?
Alexa folded in the same way.
Yeah, exactly, right? So this is a human need for approval and acknowledgement. But at the same time, we have to see, where am I aligned? Where am I giving power in my life? Okay, so and so we're looking at, why am I giving power to other people, and what's the difference between approval and acknowledgement? Acknowledgement is so say it's my birthday and you're offering me all the champagne and I don't want to have it, right? And I might have in the past felt pressured to have it because, I should. It's the right thing to do in this social situation. You've spent so much money getting me the champagne, or whatever the reasons are. And if I say, no, I'm not going to have the champagne, you're like, oh, I've ordered this champagne especially for you from wherever. I haven't had champagne in years, so I have no idea. But
from champagne. Champagne
yes,
comes from
that
champagne.
Is true. Yes. And then I might feel like, oh, you might get offended, so I should at least have one sip. All this like 19-20 like debating that goes on in the head. But if I say to you, I'm very clear that I don't want to have it, right? And I say, Ashdin, I'm so grateful that you thought to bring this amazing champagne from Champagne for me for my birthday. Thank you so much for putting all the care and effort into it. I don't feel like having champagne right now, but I really appreciate your love, which I feel through this, How are you going to feel? Are you going to feel rejected?
No, it's appreciated.
Yeah, but at the same time, I didn't have the champagne. Right? So I acknowledged the space from which you came from, which is a space of love and care. But I did not engage in the champagne or the act because it did not resonate with what is a way for me to respect my Annamaya kosha. So there's no conflict there. I don't have to think, and then next time Ashdin will be like, Mirabelle, she's, she's very khadu, she's all stuck up in all this yoga stuff. She doesn't know how to have fun. I'm not getting her champagne, da-da-da. Like all this like clutter that happens in the mind because of conditioning and belief system. So acknowledgement is exactly what I just shared. Acknowledging where you came from, acknowledging where I come from. But approval is when we need someone to agree with us. Most of us are going for approval, coming for like giving acknowledgement to myself, and you cannot give it to anybody if you don't give it to yourself. It's not possible to give anything to anybody that you don't give yourself. Just not possible. So acknowledging, I am in a yoga class, I came here to feel peaceful, but I'm feeling angry, or I'm feeling frustrated, or I'm in pain, is acknowledgement.
The person next to me is breathing too loudly. He's destroying my class, all of that.
Yeah.
Correct? So all these thoughts keep coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Vijnanamaya kosha. Pranamaya kosha is your energy system, your subtle system. It comes from your breathing. It comes from the energy that... How do you work on your pranamaya kosha?
Yeah, so, you work on becoming aware of it. See, all these koshas are existing. You just have to bring awareness and then, refine and refine and refine the awareness. It's like getting better taste in things, right? So, pranamaya kosha, you can feel all the time. When you're feeling this pain in your body or you're feeling tired, where are you feeling it? Your organs are still doing what they're doing. So, where are you feeling it in the pranamaya kosha? As you feel it in the physical body, because it is in that realm, right? So, becoming aware of biofeedback is a beautiful way to develop a relationship and understanding of pranamaya kosha. And this we call the process of interoception. Okay, so proprioception is like when you go to a doctor and they palpate you and they're like, they check if you have gas and they check all these things. That's palpation, okay? Proprioception. Interoception is, there's a particular area in the brain called the insular cortex that's responsible for this. And for some people, we have, more active or developed insular cortex or interoceptive abilities. And for some of us, we have lesser. I'm actually going to teach a course with a neuroscientist from Mount Sinai, New York in January on the neuroscience of meditation.
Wow.
And we're going to go
into it online?
It's going to be online, yeah.
Will you please send me a link? How can I join?
Absolutely,
okay,
I will. So we're going to talk about these practical things because really that's what it is. So noticing, for example, right now I'm just brushing my fingers against my palm. Now, there are a lot more nerve endings on my palm, for example, than on like my elbow here. So I'm going to feel much more sensation here, right? And that sensation that I'm feeling is the shift in the pranamaya kosha. So whenever you're feeling anything, and Yoga Nidra is a phenomenal practice. It's a beautiful way to begin to have a relationship with the koshas because it takes you through the koshas, right? So simple things like, walking into a room and noticing how does it feel to sit on this, on this chair? What is the contact space between the buttocks and the chair? what is the feeling of my clothes on my skin? What is the feeling of the air on my bare skin? Noticing the dryness in my lips, or whatever is present, is becoming aware of pranamaya kosha. So you do this practice when you are not triggered, so that when you are in a state of what we call dysregulation, or people might call it being triggered, feeling angry or overwhelmed or anxious or whatever, you can feel what that feels like in your body. People get into this thing where they're like, I'm anxious, I have anxiety issues. I've had them for years. Like,
It's me.
It's just how I am. No. So I say, what is anxiety? Well, I can't. So then they look at me like, aren't you the expert? Like, shouldn't you know what anxiety is? And I say, okay, let's close our eyes and go to a time. And if you're listening, do this with me. So close your eyes. Not if you're driving.
I was going to say that. Thank you.
And if you're driving, you can keep your eyes open. But just in your body, remember, go to a memory, a time when you felt really uncomfortable. So a time when you felt sad or upset or disappointed or let down, whatever it is. I want you to feel being in that space. Maybe there's a particular smell associated with that place, or a sense of objects in the room. And notice what that sensation of sadness or whatever it is feels like in your body. So you might notice that a certain part of your body starts to call out to you a little bit more. You might feel more sensation in a certain part of the body, and I want you to zoom in to that sensation. So Ashdin, while we're here, I'll just keep this a brief practice. Can you zoom into a sensation? I'm not going to ask you to tell me what you're thinking of. Can you zoom into a sensation of discomfort in your body? And can you share with me where you're feeling that?
In my palms, the sweaty palms.
Yeah. And can you describe the sensation of sweaty palms a little more?
So it is a clenched fist, sweaty palms, wanting to run away but being unable to.
Yeah. So I want you to feel that energy feeling of wanting to run away but unable to, as these two opposite energies in your body. Let me know if you can feel the physical sensation of both these.
So it's the feeling of almost my entire body being held back by a leash.
And which part of your body does this holding back feel most pronounced?
Chest and back.
And can you zoom into the epicenter of this discomfort? So chest and back, but there will be one spot that is kind of where it originates from. Can you just zoom into that sensation where it's the strongest, like the epicenter, and tell me if you can feel that?
Solar plexus.
And I'm just going to invite you to open your eyes now. So what we just did is we zoomed into the pranamaya kosha, and we didn't go, obviously we're not doing a session, so we could zoom in further and further and further, and then the body starts talking. It starts revealing. It might go back to what happened at that time. And when that moment of stress happens, we don't feel the physical body, right? Because we're trying to distract ourselves. We disembody, we numb, whatever. We do something to escape what is actually physically happening in the body. That becomes what we call an incomplete stress cycle. Okay, so and it gets stored in the pranamaya kosha, gets stored in the energy, and we talk of it biophysically. It's a neurochemical or a neurohormonal response, because the stress response is a neurohormone. Any response is a neurohormonal response. The nervous system interacting with the hormonal system. So for basic, just to keep it very basic, we can say that there's an activation of the sympathetic nervous system because you wanted to, run away. So you wanted to flight, but also then there was the freeze at the same time. And that would activate higher levels of cortisol and, heart would beat faster. All of these various things would happen. And that is a neurochemical energy that right now, whatever that thing you were thinking about is not happening right now. But you felt the sweaty palms. You felt that because your body remembers it and it hasn't been discharged, that neurochemical charge, because the nerves transmit through electrical charge, right? Which is that prana.
I was going to ask you the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not exactly the same, but if we wanted to compare.
Yeah, is your bioelectric field the prana was going to be one of my questions.
Yes. So that would be your pranamaya kosha. And when you discharge that by practices like this, which we call co-meditation or somatic practice, you zoom in. Your body gets to relive that experience, but instead of shutting down, you bring awareness and it feels seen.
Tell me about coherence. So basically, I reached out to you when I found out that you were working with HeartMath, and I was like, oh my God, finally someone who can explain this to me, because many years ago I started deep diving into HRV because I found HRV as a fantastic tool to understand what's happening in your system. And obviously India didn't have HeartMath, it didn't have any HRV systems. I had to buy it off various Chinese websites and stuff like this to start practicing it. And I would use it for my meditation practice. I would use it to see what kind of foods worked for my body. Was there a reaction when my HRV, etc., etc., etc. But tell me a little bit about HRV, HeartMath, and this is using current science for evaluating stuff that exists in our Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, is what I've understood so far of it.
Okay. So coherence is a way, scientifically, coherence in the biological context is when your heart rate, your nervous system, and your endocrine systems are in sync with each other. So if you measured respiration, heart rate, and endocrine function, and you got graphs for them, if all the graphs were in a sine wave-like pattern, and you put them on transparencies, you put them one on top of the other, and it looked like one graph, you're in a state of coherence. So we might call this like a flow state, right, where there is very little friction in your mind and your body. You're at ease, but you're not relaxed and not aware. So coherence is not being relaxed, I had a massage, now I'm coherent. No. And you're half asleep. No, it's a state where your prefrontal cortex, which is the part of your brain that makes executive decisions, logical decisions, is online. And your limbic brain, which is your primitive brain, that's the one that gets triggered, is not in charge. Your vagal nerve will be active, and all your systems along this axis of where the vagal nerve runs will be functioning optimally. So in terms of, I just want to relate that to koshas and yoga, when we do, say for example, we do anulom vilom, right, alternate nostril breathing, what we're doing, or we do samavritti, or the lovely lady here before was talking about, how her parents told her to practice Hanuman Chalisa to calm, right? And there's actually, Hanuman is the god of the wind, right? And so the Vayu, and there are different Vayus in the body, and then the prana, we have the different pranas in the body. The Vayus moving in different ways, right? So we have prana, apana, prana, vyana, prana, samana prana for digestion, all of these. So when you're practicing, say, and I'll just use that example because I know a lot of people love Hanuman Chalisa, and you chant it with the mantra, right? Like you're going, Jaya Hanuman Jnana Guna Sagar Jaya Kapishati Loka Ujagar Ramadut, and then you do that or you could just use 2 lines. You actually take your body into a state of coherence. If I put an HRV monitor, HeartMath monitor, and monitored you, you would be in a state of coherence.
Wow.
So we have it all. The HeartMath is only because it's industry vetted, and I work in a very, I work in the West, and most of my clients are C-suite corporate executives, lawyers, accountants, CEOs, CFOs, people like that. They're not interested in yoga because they think yoga is something you do, in Lululemon pants to get a yoga body. But that's not what I do. So it's a way to invite them into, and it's trackable. You can, and it's good. It's even, for me, I also think it's really good because you practice HeartMath with your eyes open instead of most of these practices which you do with your eyes closed. So it helps you to be able to, like, while we're talking, I just started practicing coherence breathing and my speech slowed down. I might not slow down my speech, I can still practice coherence breathing, but it's something you can practice on the go. So my clients are practicing them in the, HeartMath techniques in the boardroom, during meetings, during heated debates. They're able to bring it into the life that they're living because they're...
What all does it measure? HRV is one.
Just HRV.
Just HRV?
Just the HRV. Yeah, but in a lot of detail.
Yeah.
And then you can change the levels also. So we can change, there's a normal sort of replicating normal stress level, and then you go to medium to high to very high. And then and then it syncs to the cloud. So as a practitioner, I get to see, like right now, I've just come to India and I've got clients that are doing HeartMath. I'll just open my computer and their data will be synced to my heart cloud. And then, you're all about habits. I'm all about habits. Like, accountability is key. So if I said to someone that was practicing yoga, okay, now please do this breathing before you eat your meals, whether they do it or no, there's no way for me to actually know and how they did it. But with this, it pulls the data and it shows me start at 9:53 a.m., finished at this time. Then it gives me all the graphs. So you can't lie. I'm a tough person to work with. Like, no, I was like, yeah, I did it. I'm like, I don't see anything on the heart cloud.
I absolutely loved the conversation that we had today. Mirabelle, how can people get in touch with you? How can people continue this conversation with you going forward?
It's just my Instagram, website, LinkedIn, mirabellecunha.com is my website, and then everything's on there. So
fantastic. And we'll be putting the links in the podcast as well. Awesome, Mirabelle. So nice to have this podcast with you. Finally, we managed to do it. So happy you're here.
I'm so grateful to be here. And for anyone who thinks yoga is a certain way, drop that today and know that you can enjoy life fully. And that is yoga.
I love it. My Anandamaya kosha is exploding. If you like this episode, don't forget to hit subscribe. Also, give us a rating. It really helps with people discovering the podcast. If you like podcasts like this, check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can also watch all the episodes on the Habit Coach Awesome 180 YouTube channel. Follow us on social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, everywhere. You can also reach out to me. I am Ashdin Doc at Twitter and Instagram. You can connect with me on my website, awesome180.com. You can also check out my 2 new books, Change Your Habits, Change Your Life, and the second, The Book of Good Habits for Kids. I am Ashdin Doctor, your habit coach.
IVM.